Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy and I'm so happy you're here. Hang on. Oh, I was just looking for my green thumb and I can't find it. If this is your first time stopping by, welcome, and I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below as well as the little bell right next to it so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. Today we're going to be doing 8 Dollar Tree DIYs for your planting containers, as well as one DIY where I'm making over my rain boots that you've seen me use before. Thank you to Sweet Night Mattresses for sponsoring this video, and I'll tell you more about them a little later on. If you like these projects, don't forget to give them a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think, and now, without further ado, let's get started. For our first Dollar Tree DIY, I'm going to be using 2 candle holders, 2 round wood pieces, a big round wood piece, and then some beads. So I'm just going to get everything ready to paint by taking off the stickers and the jute twine. And on my round family sign, which I was so excited to finally find, I'm going to be using my Cricut spatula to remove all of that paper, and I want to use that family metal word in another project. So then I'm going to take some Dollar Tree spackle and just fill up all of those holes, let that dry, and then I'll use my sanding sponge from the Dollar Tree and get that all sanded down and smooth. So now I'm going to use my Waverly White chalk paint, and I'm going to paint a lot of this letting that brown show through. It's so pretty. And then I'll have some areas where it'll be a little more solid and some a little bit lighter, and I'll paint the rest of my pieces all in the white chalk paint just to give it the same finish, and I'll go back and distress that a little bit later, but I just want to make sure that it looks like one cohesive piece. And then I'll go back in with my sanding sponge and get that even more distressed and pretty. And then I'm going to take some permanent adhesive as well as some hot glue, and I'm going to put my 2 candle holders together. And then I'm going to take some jute twine and wrap around that middle area just to make sure that there's no hot glue showing. And then I'll do 2 more pieces of jute twine on the upper part and then on the lower part where those round indentations are on the candle holders. And I just thought that would give it a little more interest. So then I took my PINECRAFT wood beads, which I will have linked in the description box below, and I'm going to use the smallest of the 3 sizes that come with this, and I'm going to hot glue them around the edge of one of my chunky wood pieces. And I wanted them to stick out quite a bit, but I went a little too far so the holes are kind of peeking out when I placed my second piece of wood on top. I don't even know what I was thinking. So just make sure you tuck them in far enough so that the holes don't show. See, I make all of the mistakes for you, so yours will be perfect. And then to make that final bead fit in the smaller area, if it happens to be smaller, just use some sandpaper to make it flat on the edges, and it'll fit right in between that little extra space. So I had an extra step of filling the holes in with more spackle. I also wanted to mention that one of the owners of PINECRAFT happens to also be a sweet viewer, and she emailed me to say thank you for the shout out in our last video. And they had so many orders that they're not able to send out that second set of free wood beads with every order. But if you do order them, you're going to be entered into a drawing for that second set of free beads. So that was super awesome, and I love supporting small businesses. So as you can see, we're just painting those beads white, and I left a little bit of the wood peeking through, and then we'll hot glue the other chunky wood piece to the top of them, making a pretty little wood bead sandwich. And you'll see where those holes should have been hidden under that top piece. Then to assemble our plant stand, I used some permanent adhesive from the Dollar Tree and then some hot glue so that it would stay together immediately, and then went right around the bottom rim of our stacked candle holders and placed it in the middle of our base. And then I did the same thing at the top and then placed the larger wood sign on top of that. And you see here I have 3 pieces of jute twine wrapped around the top and bottom of the candle holders, but I ended up taking one off so it wasn't quite as busy. And then to give it that distressed look, I mixed some Waverly Truffle chalk paint with a little bit of antique wax to give it a pretty creamy beigey color that kind of matched our wood top, and just dry brushed the bottom pieces. And then to give it that powdery looking finish that I love so much, I went back in with a final layer of the white chalk paint. And then to put our plant in, I'm using one of Dollar Tree's tin containers or buckets. I guess it would be either one, but it has the handle, so I'm not sure if it's a bucket. Anyway, I'm going to do the colors in the exact opposite order of what we did on the stand by painting it in the truffle and then dry brushing it with white. And I first went horizontally with my strokes, and then we'll go vertically to give it a really pretty linen look. And it's okay if some of that metal peeks through, because that just gives it another layer of cuteness. So then I took some burlap wired ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and first I folded it in half and then started rolling it a few times and added a dot of hot glue to keep it in place. And then I don't even really know how to explain how I made these roses, because I was just kind of winging it. So hopefully you can see how I'm folding the ribbon and then wrapping it and then securing each petal with another dot of glue. But since I was really lacking in these directions, I did put a link in the description box below of another video I found that shows step by step how to do this. It's by HANDIWORKS, and she does a really good job of showing the step-by-step process, since mine is not very helpful. And hers are way prettier too, and I should have watched her video before doing mine. But after I get them done, I'm just going to hot glue those to the front of my bucket. So I had planned to use live plants for all of these DIYs, but I happened to be at the Dollar Tree in the middle of making these projects and found some super pretty greenery, and I guess that's just because of spring, but I haven't seen such pretty stems in a long time, and I am always looking. So I thought I would do a few of these using the fake plants. And I have to admit, God gives us each our own gifts and talents, and having a green thumb is just not one of mine. Which is really a bummer, because I do love the look of real plants, but I didn't love the work of planting them, and you already know I can't keep them alive. So I'm just accepting my limitations and ended up giving all of these live plants to my sister for her birthday, since she did inherit my grandma's green thumb. But I loved how this turned out, and even though it was meant to be a plant stand, and I am going to keep it as a plant stand, but it's so stinking pretty, I wanted to showcase it even more. So this is the way it looks, the original plan with the original pot, but I decided to take it up another notch. And so what I'm going to do is take a Dollar Tree terracotta pot, and I'm just going to paint it with my white chalk paint, and I left a little bit of that terracotta peeking through. And then I'm going to take some jute twine, and I'm going to wrap it around my fingers 5 times, tie it together with another piece of jute twine, and then just kind of fan out those loops. And then I'll do that a second time and glue those 2 pieces together crisscross, and then that'll make it into a pretty jute flower. And then I'm going to glue that to the front of my pot, and then for the middle I'm going to take a sticky puffy dot, and I'm just going to paint that with my white chalk paint. And I always like to paint a few at the same time, just in case I might need one for another DIY. And so once that dries, I'm going to hot glue that right into into the middle of our pretty little flower. And then I have this really pretty dome that you've seen me use in other DIYs that I got from the Goodwill. And so I wanted to see how high I could make my plant. So I just took some scrap floral foam and I popped that into my planter. And then I'm just going to poke some of that pretty greenery inside and then put the dome on top of that. And here it is, all finished for the second time. But you guys know how much I love, love, love cloches, and I just think this elevates our $5 plant stand into something so high-end looking and rustic, and I just love this piece so much. It makes my eyes so happy. I love it, and I hope you like it too. For our next Dollar Tree DIY, we're going to be using a plastic trash can and one foam roller. And Dollar Tree carries the long skinny ones and the short thicker ones, but either one will work. And then this is a scrap piece of those 3D floral wreaths, but you can see it still has the little round parts attached at the ends. So having those on there just made it a little bit easier, but you don't have to have this particular piece. You could just use some regular wire. So the first thing I'm going to do, as with any piece of plastic that we're going to be painting, we have to sand it down really well. And I go horizontally, and then I'll also go vertically, and then I'm going to paint that completely white using my Waverly White chalk paint. And then I'm going to use my Silhouette Cameo 3 to cut out a stencil, and I'll have this available in my Etsy shop. And I really kind of ended up weeding it a little bit too much because I didn't need to get rid of all of those little parts in the stems and in the middle of the bee. But I'm just going to take my transfer tape from Frisco Craft and put that right on top of my stencil tape, which is also from Frisco Craft, and then I'll place that on top of my bucket. And I'll have both of those Frisco Craft products linked in the description box below. So now I'm going to take some of Dollar Tree's all-purpose caulk and mastic, and I'm just going to put that all over my stencil, and I wanted it to be really rough and lifted. So I'm just being very generous with it and just squeezing it out. And this one is a lot easier to use than the one you have to use that gun for, which has no off switch, by the way. Anyway, I'm just going to cover this all up. One thing I did forget to do was to put some baby powder on the back of my stencil tape to take some of that tackiness off. So it did end up pulling some of my paint off, but I wanted some texture in there anyway, so I just painted over it and it turns out super pretty. But I am going to show you what it looks like with some of that paint coming off, because the blue is so pretty underneath that you could end up just giving it a really light brushing on there and let that turquoise show through. But this was a gift for my sister and blue was not in her color scheme, so I ended up painting over it anyway. And then to get rid of some of the little tippy pieces that were sticking up in that mastic, I just pushed it down using a plastic spoon. So now to make that pattern really stand out, I'm going to take a small paintbrush and using my truffle chalk paint, I'm just going to go over all of those raised areas. Then for my handle, I'm going to take the wire piece out of the middle of my roller so it's hollow, and then I'm going to carefully place it over that little round part and slide it on to the top part of the handle, and then I'm going to use some more of the truffle chalk paint to paint that foam. So now to attach my handle to my bucket, I'm using my Crocodile, and there's two different sizes of holes. So I'm using the larger one, and I'm just gonna shove that over that lip and onto the bucket, and it's spring loaded so it cuts through anything and makes a perfect hole. And then I'll have to go back and touch that up, but I'm gonna use some regular paddle wire to attach my handle to the sides of the bucket. So now here's where the planting comes in, and because this doesn't have any drainage, in order to make your own drainage, you have to put a layer of rocks at the bottom, and then I added some netting from those rocks and just threw that in there, and then took some sheet moss and added that to the bottom of the bucket. And I had to ask my sweet friend Emily, who has a total green thumb. In fact, she has a website called therootedmom.com. And she was the one who explained how to do this so that it has drainage at the bottom. So my daughter Christine and I took a trip to the Home Depot to pick up all of the plants for these projects. And we chose this pretty ficus for the big bucket. And I have to share this mishap with you. Connor was in charge of holding a couple of plants, and I thought that would be some adorable footage. But again, plants are not our forte. And apparently we didn't think this through.
It's all in his mouth, Mom. No, he's trying to get more.
How did we miss that?
I don't know.
Oh, look, he's got dirt all over it.
Is that yummy? You like dirt? Yeah. This is so cute.
I guess he was really hungry because he was going in for another mouthful. Anyway, I just had to share that with you. So this is a Ficus benjamina, and we ended up spending $13.98 for it. And so I just put a little bit of potting soil down, and then I'm going to take it out of the container, and then I kind of split the roots apart and got it all nice and open so it could kind of breathe. And then I placed it inside and put some more topsoil in there. And that handle is nice and sturdy and was able to hold it. And here's how it turned out, and I think this is so pretty, especially with a living plant inside. But I am just having so much fun with the textured stenciling look. And you know I love anything with touchy goodness. And my sister absolutely loved it. I love it, and I hope you like it too. For our next Dollar Tree DIY, I'm just using an oblong metal planter and 4 1-inch wood beads. And this one is super cinchy. I'm just going to attach the beads at the bottom of the planter and then paint everything white. And then for the distressing on this one, I'm using a tiny amount of black chalk paint and wiping it on there with a wet wipe. And this is how I like it, with the softer white showing through. But since it's not for me, I ended up going darker and then wiped over the words so they would actually show in this project. I'm usually always covering them up, but I think they're really pretty and I wanted to highlight them for once. So I just went through the same steps to make that drainage since there's no holes at the bottom, and I'm just cutting down my moss sheet from the Dollar Tree, putting it on top of some rocks, and then using this potting soil to plant this pretty dusty miller that we got. And this is only $2.98 for a 6-pack. And here it is all done, and I think it's so pretty and is such a simple way to add some touches of greenery to your home decor. And if you don't want to use the real plant, Walmart carries the fake dusty miller, which now that I've seen the real thing, looks almost exactly like it. And I can't kill those. But I hope you guys like this. For this project, we're going to be using 2 coffee cups and 2 of the rub-on transfers. And super cinchy again, I'm just going to cut out the little wreath forms that are in the middle and pull that off and stick it right onto my cup. And then I'm going to rub it on there with a squeegee and then pull off that transfer tape. And if it doesn't all come up, you can just use your fingernail to rub it back down and then just pull it completely off. And then I'm going to use my Sharpie paint pen, and I get these from Walmart, and I'm just going to write bloom on one, and then on the second one I'm going to write grow in a cursive writing. And I just made it a little fancy by making little swooshes at the end and the beginning of my words. And these would be perfect for a little gift of some sort. Now, my friend Emily said that anything you plant into a cup is pretty much not going to live unless it's a succulent. But since this is a gift, my sister can replant this wherever she wants. So I just went ahead and did the same process with the little rocks at the bottom and then added that netting on top of that and put my pretty plants inside. And look how sweet these turned out. I love them so much. I can't remember the name of the fern that they are, but I took the little pokey stick with the instructions and put it in the back of them so that my sister will know how to handle them. But I love how they turned out, and I hope you like them too. So real quick, I wanted to talk about Sweet Night mattresses, and I have a lot of viewers who ask for prayers on our community prayer post because they have back problems and are in constant pain. So I know mattresses don't have anything to do with DIYing, but you also know I won't recommend anything that I wouldn't use myself. But I have to tell you, this is by far the most comfortable mattress I've ever slept on, and that's not an exaggeration. Now, we had just gotten a new mattress for our bed, and Michael J loves it, but me, not so much. So we ended up getting a full size for our daughter Kennedy, and she said the exact same thing. So when you first get it, you have to let it expand, and she could not wait to test it out. And of course, Cadence and Connor tried it out too. And can you see how Connor is barely even moving when Cadence is jumping on it? That's called motion isolation, and that's just a fancy way of saying that. There's also some sort of cooling effect that it has. I have no idea how they do that, and I still don't understand how they can get this 12-inch mattress into such a small box. But you get a 100-day sleep trial, a 10-year warranty, and the one that I ordered is the Twilight Pillow Top Memory Foam and Inner Springs Hybrid. I had to read that. But I will have a special link to their site in the description box below, and I'll also link it in the comments so it's easy to find. And if you use my coupon code WS22, you'll get 22% off. So if you're in the market for a new mattress or you're having back problems, you definitely want to check these out. For this planter DIY, I'm going to be using this Dollar Tree plastic toolbox, and I used this one time before in a fall project, but I just love the look of these, and I think they're perfect for that farmhouse look. So I'm just going to take it outside and paint it using some Krylon matte white spray paint, and I took the handle off, but you don't have to do that. And then I took this wooden Hello cutout sign, also from the Dollar Tree, and we'll just paint that black with Waverly chalk paint and ink. And then I replaced the handle because I had planned to paint it black also, but I decided instead to wrap it using some jute twine. So I just tied a knot at the end, and then I'm just going to continue wrapping until it's completely covered. So my hello sign fit perfectly in that little recessed area horizontally, but it was a smidge too tall vertically, so I sanded down the top of the L's and distressed the edges while I was at it. And then I took my black paint pen and ran some crookedy lines around the edges to distress it. So then we're going to attach our hello to the front of our box, and I'm just using hot glue here, but you want to add some E6000 or that multi-purpose cement from the Dollar Tree because it popped right off when I bumped it one time. So now I'm going to take some floral foam and some more of that greenery and just pop it into the top until it's nice and full. And here it is, all finished, and another super cinchy project that takes more time for the paint to dry than actually making it. And I have it staged here with some other DIYs from previous videos, but I am always looking for cute ways to pull in some greenery for my vignettes and shelf displays, and I think this is adorable. I love it, and I hope you like it too. For this Dollar Tree DIY, I'm going to be using 2 of these plastic flower pots and 2 small organizing bins. And I just sanded and painted everything in my white chalk paint. You're probably getting tired of watching me do that. And then I made a row of holes all around the tops of my planters using the crocodile. And I'll have this listed in my Amazon store. I think I forgot to mention that last time. And then I'm going to run some jute twine through the holes and wrap it very loosely around the top and into the next hole, and then tie it in a sweet little bow in the front. And then using a chippy brush and a very small amount of that truffle chalk paint, I just dry brushed the pots and the little organizers because those are going to become the bases. And these pots already have a drainage system, so that makes it way easier and ready to go for planting your live plants. So now I'm going to use a craft knife to take off the rubber feet so that my planter will sit flat on top of these. And then to attach them, I'm going to use my Dollar Tree all-purpose cement, and you can find this in the hardware department, and then some hot glue to hold them in place while the cement completely dries. And I think adding the bases makes them look like urns. So now I'm just going to plant my pretties inside there, and again, I don't have to do any of that filtering madness. I forgot what these are called, and I don't know why I didn't write it down. I thought I was going to remember it, but I only retain water. I do remember that they were $5 each, and they were pretty pink. So you guys probably know what they are. Are they begonias? I don't know. Anyway, here they are, all finished, and I think these look so pretty. These also went to my sister, so I know they're gonna grow and get super pretty. She may have mentioned that they needed to be planted outside. I don't know. But I'm pretty much over the whole planting situation. It is just not for me, and I still have dirt under my fingernails. But I love how they look, and I hope you like them too. For this DIY, I'm using my thrifted rain boots and redoing them for the 3rd time, and this is my favorite so far, and a Dollar Tree decal. And as you can see, they were Santa boots for Christmas, and before that they were made up for last spring when I did a collaboration with sweet Olivia at Olivia's Romantic Home, and she had sent me a pot holder with some red rain boots on it, so I made some real ones to kind of match the picture, and they were so cutie patootie. But I'm going to take both pairs of trim off, and I hot glued the buffalo check dish towel, so that took off some of the paint. But I just sanded those areas down and repainted them using a mixture of my Waverly chalk paint in ballet slipper and white to make a super pretty soft pink. And I just painted them completely pink, and then I took those big beautiful roses and applied them to the sides, and then added some Mod Podge to hold them down. And then I cut smaller pieces to go around the toe area and near the soles, and then covered the entire boot with Mod Podge. Because this is the matte finish, but there's still a little bit of a sheen to it, so it would show up if you just had it around the edges of your roses. And then to fill my boots, I already had some tissue paper in there, so I'm just going to add some Dollar Tree white hydrangeas, and then some dahlias, some super pretty roses, and then from Walmart I have some eucalyptus that I'm going to pop in there for some additional greenery, and they will be done. And here they are, all finished and looking oh so pretty and pink. I love these so much. I'm going to be doing a front porch video next month, and I'm planning to incorporate the pretty pinks into that. So I might use these then. But I love them, and I hope you like them too. I'm finally kind of getting caught up on my comments and correspondence. Oh, and I have some perky prizes I wanted to share with you, as well as some Patreon shout outs. So hopefully I can get to that pretty soon, because I truly appreciate your kindness and support. And I'm just so blessed by your thoughtfulness. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to the very tippy top. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye!